Hello guys, welcome to Arivu Pro. We are going to discuss a paper of CA final and my name is Sai and I will be helping you to learn this course. We'll be dealing paper 4 of CA final, that is corporate and economic laws. So whatever is possible and whatever is possible from my end and in making this ends meet and to achieve your goals, I'll be providing all that of to the best of my capabilities. Yes, and my name is Sai and I'm a qualified company secretary. So I'll be helping you learn this course throughout. So before getting into what we are going to do, probably the syllabus, I'll be first telling you the methodology of my teaching, and we'll also be knowing that what and all you can expect from me, and so that you can be well prepared whether how to continue to this course and how to be equipped with this course. So first thing, I'll be giving you a study mat, that is something of this sort. This is a condensed form of your study materials, that is the modules given by the institute itself. You can thoroughly use this and you need not refer to any other book. This is purely a condensed form of the materials which is given by your institute. And of course with a ease in language and probably a very simple way of interpretation will be used here, and the volume compared to your book, it will be reduced here. So wherever, if assume there is a 60 pages, then probably the condensed material which I'll be giving you will be around 38 or 40 pages. So for every chapter you can make sure that there will be a cut off depending upon the number of pages that chapter is. You can assume that the number of pages will be reduced by 15, 20, 25 as the case may be. So by the end of the course, assume if there are more than 18 chapters or 15 chapters, then proportionately the number of pages will also be reduced. So from your exam point of view, then yes, definitely it will make difference. And the second thing that you can expect from me will be a summary charts. So I'll be explaining something of this sort. So everything will be in the chart form. So this is something which you can expect from my explanation perspective. So there will be two things that will be available from my end. One is the condensed form of study material that is equivalent to your module, which you can read it, you need not refer to any other book. The second one you will be getting one is a summary charts, and this is like a in-class handwritten notes. So you will be if you want, you can make a note of it. So this is the second notes which will be given by my end. So sir, which one should we read? So what I tell you, whenever the class is going on, when you have ample amount of time, so you have to go through this particular material, that is the first material, that is a condensed form of module which will be given. And when the time is short, that is the day previous to the exam, or when you want to quickly revise the subject on any weekend, that time you can use this particular summary chart. So don't just rely on summary chart alone. When you have time, you have to refer to this. When you do not have time, that is when you have to quickly revise, or from the day before the exams perspective, that time you can stick to the summary charts. I hope I have made myself clear on this particular aspect. And what else you can expect from my end? There will be a lot of examples, illustrations, questions that will be discussed in the class. As and when we see a particular topic, we'll be discussing a question there. We'll be seeing many past questions also, and whatever are the examples, illustrations and the questions given in your ICAI module, even that will be discussed in the class. So from that point of view, you can blindly trust on me, and I'll not be leaving any stone unturned. So that is a promise from my end. And not only that, in addition to that, we'll also be discussing certain question papers and analysis, and I'll be also telling you how to write your exams, that is how to write your answers, how to present your answers, and we'll also be discussing your RTPs. So all this you can expect from my end from this particular lectures. So so this is the brief of what you will be getting from my end, so that you can be prepared of how to prepare yourself for the next whatever the time taken to complete this course. Yeah, and the next thing is that in this entire module you can see this colored patterns. Wherever it is important, then that particular thing will be colored. Yes, so that whenever you are reading, so this will be available in a soft copy, that whenever you are reading, you know that there is an important thing that you need not miss. So I believe in that color code. So that is one thing which will be there. So that will be there throughout. The color combinations will be there throughout. Yeah, so different colors will be used wherever possible. So all that will definitely be there. So without further delaying, so then let us start your course, guys. Do not blink, do not do not get distracted, and let us try to keep it as informative, as innovative, and as interesting as possible. Yes, so let us begin our today's class. Okay, sir. So let us before seeing into this particular chapter, the first things first, assuming that all of you have all of you remember whatever you have studied in your previous course, that is your CA Inter, and you still remember those concepts. Sir, why is it relevant? It is not irrelevant, but it is relevant wherever there are certain facts where you need to know what was there in your curriculum. So you need to know what you have studied to understand certain concepts better. So if at all there is a very important aspect as such, I'll still be teaching those things wherever we have come across, though you have studied that in CA Inter. So how is your curriculum planned? So in your CA Inter, you would have studied from section 1 to section 148. Yeah, in your CA Inter, you would have studied from section 1 to section 148. From section 149 and onwards, you will be seeing it in CA Final. So if at all there are certain words which were here, yeah, so things like say annual returns, things like say private placement, things like many other things where you would have studied, which was here. I hope you guys remember that. If not, and if it is a major aspect while we are reading anything now, if still it has relevance, I'll be explaining that to you in brief. Yes, so this is what we'll be seeing in CA Final. So this was in CA Inter, and this will form part of your CA Final. Yes guys, come let us begin our today's class. So paper 4, corporate and economic laws. Let us see what is the weightage approach, how much will be asked, question paper pattern, weightage of each particular chapter. Yeah, in short, of course on the first lecture it will not make sense at all, but still after watching the entire videos, again watch this, it will again make sense. Yes, okay. Now your particular paper, it has been, as the name says, corporate and economic laws. The 100 marks paper, this has been split into two parts. Part 1 deals with company laws, that is corporate law. Section A deals with company law, and section B deals with securities laws, basically your SEBI and all that part. Yeah, so the part 1 deals with company law and securities laws. The total weightage of part 1 will be 70 marks, which consists of company laws and securities laws. The part 2 consists of economic laws, and the weightage is 30 marks. Sir, what is the weightage of each chapter? So the weightage of each chapter is given here. Can you see this 30 to 35%? So this is the weightage of each chapter. So if you see, these three chapters together forms 30 to 35% of 70 marks. It is not of 100 marks, 30 to 35% of 70 marks. Yes. So now these three chapters, we cannot of course come to an independent chapter analysis. We can just take the past trend and we can guess on an average, but that will not be very accurate. But yes, this is as per the this is prescribed by ICAI itself. It is not something which I made. So this is as per the ICAI prescribed format. Yes, so this is going to be your pattern. As this weightage, as we go deeper into the course, we'll be seeing more as and when we deal in more and more chapters. So as of now, just know that there is the partition of 70 and 30 marks between corporate and economic laws. Yeah, and per chapter weightage is given here. Yes, okay, sir. Now, let us know how many questions will be asked, what will be the weightage and all that part. So your question paper has two divisions. One is A and the second one is B. Division A will have MCQs and the MCQs will be asked for 30 marks. Division B is going to be your descriptive questions, that is your the case-based written questions which you need to answer. In this MCQs for 30 marks, there will be two types of questions which can be asked. One is case scenario question. There will be some 4 to 5 paragraph case which will be given. Out of that particular case, they will be asking you 5 MCQs. Yes, so such case based scenarios, there will be two questions. Question 1 and question 2. So the question 1, there will be one case which will be some 4 to 5 paragraphs, and they will be asking you 5 multiple choice questions. Every one question will carry 2 marks each. So total it will be 10 marks. The second question, again there will be a case based scenario and they will be asking you 4 MCQs out of that particular case. And this, there will be 4 questions of 2 marks each, total to 8 marks. So from question 1 and question 2 you can score 18 marks. And the second type of MCQs will be standalone. Basically, it is a one paragraph question straight away. Even here there can be a case based question, but it will be only one question. It will not be a spread out just like we saw in case scenario questions. So the standalone question can be for 1 or 2 marks. So there will be 12 marks totally asked from standalone questions. Now the next one is division B. There will be 6 questions which will be asked from division B. Yes, and the highest marker will be 8 marks question. So this is going to be your question paper pattern. So we'll be also seeing, as we go deeper into the course, we'll also be seeing certain question papers also, so that you will have a fair idea by the end of the course. Okay, sir. So without further delay, guys, let us start your part 1. Yes, in that let us start your company law. Yes, the first chapter of company law, appointment and qualifications of directors. Okay, sir, assuming that we know all 148 sections. I know, yes, I know you guys know all 148 sections. That is why, yes sir, we cleared. Yeah, we just didn't by heart the sections and content. We also remember the concept. So knowing all that, okay, let us start your appointment and qualifications of director. Okay, sir. Now, this particular chapter revolves around directors. First things first, sir, why do we need directors? So guys, you imagine the company is just like your country. Yeah. Now imagine whenever there is, the country that is like India, the population of more than 145 crores. Now it will be around 150 crores. Yeah, probably tomorrow the count will be more. Yes. Okay. Now, sir, imagine whenever you want to administer a country like India, how many people mind is required? Now imagine all 145 crore people giving their inputs. All 145 crore people want to do whatever they want to do. Can the country prosper? It is not possible. Yes, you are absolutely right. It is not possible. That is the reason we have someone called as people electives. So we have our MLAs, MPs, we have our ministers. Sir, what do? We elect them. They are our representatives. So the option is given to us to choose who is going to be our MP or MLAs, who is going to be our chief ministers. the option is given to us. So it is our choice to choose who is going to sit there. So after we choosing them, they will do whatever is good for us. Now try to get the same concept to company. In a company, especially when a company like a public company, say for example, let us take an example of Infosys. Now, Infosys, there are more than, there will be like lakhs of shareholders, lakhs of shareholders. Now imagine I hope all of you know, the equity shareholders are considered as the actual owners of the company. Now imagine, I want to do something in Infosys. Like me, there are 1 lakh people. Yeah, what is good to me may not be good to some other shareholder. So there are so many perceptions, so many thoughts. Now imagine all of us want to rule this particular company. Is it possible? The answer is no. So what happens? All the shareholders come together, they come and sit in a meeting and they elect their representatives. And in a company form of business, they are only called as directors. Yes, so directors are the representatives of the shareholders. The shareholders cannot be present. They cannot take care of the day-to-day affairs of the company. So we have appointed the directors to do this job for us. So the directors are the main essence of this particular chapter. This chapter mainly revolves around the directors. Yes, okay, sir. Now, before going even more deeper, whenever I talk about company's law, so whenever we talk about a law, there are two things. So, sir, do we study about law or are we studying an act here? Are we studying law here or are we studying act here? Sir, first thing, we are finding both of it as one and the same. So, whenever I talk about a law always includes sections. It always includes the rules. This thing includes case laws. It includes notifications, circulars. Everything is forming part of a law. Whereas if I talk about an act is just sections. Now imagine whenever we are studying here, we will be studying from a law perspective and not an act perspective. Why? Because this particular law we will be discussing more in detail because it will be sections, rules and wherever relevant case laws and notifications, circulars and all this together will form a law. Okay. Now, sir, what is the major difference? See, if I have to tell you, whenever I talk about a law, especially if I have to talk about a shift from Companies Act 1956 to Companies Act 2013, in Companies Act the number of sections were more, the number of rules were less. And in Companies Act 2013, the number of sections are less and the number of rules are more. Sir, why is there a difference of this particular thing in compared to Companies Act 1956 and 2013? See, the reason is whenever a law is made, it has to pass through first of all, it has to pass through the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, both the houses, they fight and after making all relevant possible, first thing it depends on which particular party is presenting the bill. You never know, just like GST, first it started with Congress and when BJP presented it, the Congress only said we don't want GST. Yeah, so all that nonsense will happen and after that, yes, finally the law will be made. Now, imagine what will happen whenever a law is made, if at all that law has to be amended. If a law has to be amended, it has to repeat the entire procedure. Sir, what procedure? First, a draft has to be submitted in both the houses of parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. First, The bill has to go through these two houses. Once Lok Sabha approves it, Rajya Sabha approves it, next it goes to President. President has to sign this bill. Once the President sign it, the government will officially tell you guys, hey guys, the bill is out here. Just like you guys use Facebook to publish whatever is your status. The same way the government uses official website of its, just like your Facebook account. It uses something called as official gazette. It is also called as gazette notification. Until any bill, until it doesn't come to official gazette, then it is not official yet. In your WhatsApp it comes, no, people will just morph something and they say from tomorrow it is lockdown. That can't happen until official gazette notification is there. It is not a official publication. Okay sir, once it is also posted here, now it forms the life of a bill. That is how an act is made. Now imagine, this is a chain of procedure which has to undergo for an act to come into place. If anything in an act has to be amended, if anything in an act has to be changed, then the same procedure again has to be repeated. Again Lok Sabha, again Rajya Sabha, again there will be opponent MPs, MLAs, all these people will be there. Now what is the problem here? Whenever there is an act which has to be passed in the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, the problem is the ministers, they do not accept each other. If it is a genuine one, it is okay. But if it is just like a cat fight, it will never end. Now imagine the time taken to amend a particular thing in an act. So what did the Companies Act 2013 do? Whenever section is to be amended, you have to follow the same procedure. But whenever a rule is to be amended, central government has reserved the power to amend the rule however it deems fit. If section has to be amended, the entire procedure has to be followed. But the rule has to be amended. This can be just done by central government. So that is MCA. That is our Nirmala Sitharaman. So she has a power to amend the rules. Of course, she will not do it. She will have the council who will advise her. There will be the committees will be there. After all that, only if anything will be amended. Yes, so it is easy to amend a rule, but it is very difficult to amend a section. So, Companies Act 1956, there were more sections, less rules. Companies Act 2013, there are less rules, but there are less sections, but more rules. Why? Whenever there is an amendment required, the central government can do it very easily without having to go to the entire procedure again. That is not required at all. So this was the smart game of Companies Act 2013. So Companies Act 2013 has more rules. Yes, so this is a basic thing which you guys would have known, but yes, it is a good to know information before getting into detail. Okay sir, so wherever you see the words like as may be prescribed, all these places are the places where central government has reserved a right to enhance or to decrease the limits. Whenever you see those words like that, central government can pass a law as and when it deems fit. Yes, okay sir. So having discussed that, let us come back to a chapter. Okay sir, so now we got to know how a law is made. Now we got to know who the directors are, why we need them as well. Because I told you, too many chefs, it spoils the broth. So you cannot have so many chefs to do a simple food. So the same thing happens here. Now we have entrusted all our responsibilities on these directors. So directors acts as the agent as well as trustees to this particular company. So on behalf of us, the directors enter into contract. They will bind the company in a contract. So they are given that power to enter into a contract on behalf of the company. Sir, who has given them this power? We have represented them there. We have voted for them. How, sir? General meetings. In general meetings, the directors will be appointed. Of course, there are certain exceptions which we will be seeing as when we go through the chapter. Okay, sir. So the directors are appointed as agents of the company. So if the company wants to enter into any contract, the company, on behalf of the company, the directors will enter into a contract. So they will sign the contract which will bind the company. And not only that, the company over a period of time will earn many properties. Sir, who will take care of these properties? That time the directors only will act as trustees. Sir, what is trustees? In a normal trust, what happens? There will be a trust, there will be a trustee who will take care of the property of the trust for the beneficiaries. In the same way, for the company, the directors will act as trustees. They will take the responsibility to administer the properties, what is good, what is bad, for the beneficiaries, that is shareholders. So the directors play the dual role, that is as an agent as well as a trustee. Okay, sir. Now, company to have board of directors. Sir, in a company, how many directors should be there? Section 149, our first section in the CA final, it says that the company should have board of directors. Okay, sir. How many directors should be there? You would have seen it in your CA inter also. A company should have minimum number of directors depending upon the type of company. There are three types of company broadly. One is public company, one is private company, the next one is OPC, one person company. Okay, sir. A public company should always have 3 directors minimum. Private company should have at least 2 directors. One person company should have at least 1 director. Okay, sir. The maximum number of directors is 15 for all the companies. That is public, private as well as OPC. Do not forget this simple limit, but very, very important. Okay, sir. So the minimum number of directors in public is 3, private is 2, OPC is 1. The maximum number of directors in a public, private or OPC, even OPC is included here. So the maximum number of directors in these 3 companies is 15. Sir, what if I want to appoint more than 15 directors in these 3 companies? You can appoint, provided you need to pass a special resolution. I hope you guys know what is special resolution. Yeah, the number of people agreeing to a particular resolution should be 3/4, minimum 3/4. So if number of people casting their vote for the resolution should be at least 3/4. Yes, that is special resolution. Okay, sir. So if at all I want to appoint a director, I mean the maximum number of directors in my company, the maximum number is 15. Sir, if I want to appoint more than that, you can appoint more than 15 directors in your company, provided you need to call your shareholders, you need to pass a special resolution. Okay, sir. However, this maximum limit of 15 directors is not applicable to government and Section 8 companies. So government company is a company in which the more than 51% of paid up share capital is held by the central government or state government or central government and state government together. So government companies and Section 8 companies, not for profit organization, they can have more than 15 directors without passing a special resolution. So remember these limits, very, very important. Yes. So the number of directors in a company, minimum is public company is 3 directors, private company 2 directors, OPC is 1 director. The maximum number of directors in a company can be 15. So this applies for public, private as well as OPC. However, if I want to appoint more, then I have to pass a special resolution. So guys, whenever I talk about minimum, what do you mean by this? At any given point of time, that number of directors in these companies shall not fall below these limits. If it is falling below these limits, then it will be considered as a non-compliance. Yes? Okay, sir. So exemption, a government and Section 8 company can have more than 15 directors without having to pass a special resolution. However, this exemption is applicable only if such company has not committed a default in filing of their financial statements and annual return. That is, if you remember in your inter again, financial statements, your P&L, your balance sheet, basically you would have seen form called as AOC4, yeah, and annual return MGT7. So the company should have not defaulted in filing these two forms. So as long as there is no default, then Section 8 company and government company can avail this exemption. Okay, sir. So remember this exemption, wherever we'll be seeing this exemption, so this particular clause will be repeating, that there should be no default in filing of this financial statements and annual return. So remember that. Yes. Okay, sir. So minimum number of directors we got to know. Yeah. Okay, sir. Now section 149 subsection section 149 subsection 1 second proviso, very important. Remember, sir, should we remember the sections? Yes, you need to remember the section. The chances of you passing will be, if you quote the sections and rules and wherever it is required forms, if you quote this, the chances of you scoring close to 6 to 8 marks will be more. Compared to a normal person who is not writing the sections, if you quote the sections, the chances of scoring that 6 to 8 marks will always be more. Yes, so always remember the sections wherever important. Try to form a chart type of thing, whichever is a section which you need to remember. I know it is impossible to remember all the sections, but try to put your effort. You can always remember, guys, you cannot remember all the sections in one day. It is a throughout effort. It is like a journey. Yeah, you have to try to remember as and when possible. So as a student, how I used to do, I used to take a paper. I used to form a chart. I used to write all the important sections in there. I used to paste it on the room, on the wall of my room. Yeah. So every day in and day out, I used to look at these sections. I used to memorize it every day. It is not a one-day procedure. You will not be able to remember all the sections in one day. But it is a collective effort. Yeah. So in like this, throughout you can try to remember close to at least around 100 sections. That is very, very possible. And it is also important. You have no option. When you have no option, let us try to find a way to reach your destination. Yeah, rather than just giving up. So this is the way. So try to remember this. Yes. Okay, sir. You will be getting these exam tips left and right. Yeah, wherever possible. So okay, sir. The next one, see, in a company, there can be lot of directors. Yes. So, sir, what is this new concept, men director, women director? Yeah. Okay. So, towards this women empowerment, there is one provision which says in company law that certain class of companies should mandatorily appoint one women director, Nari Shakti. It is only there for women. Sir, men director, there is no such clause. Yeah. So the clause says such class of companies shall mandatorily appoint women director. Sir, where? Who shall appoint? These types of companies. First, every listed company. Okay. So every listed company and public company having a paid up share capital of 100 crore or more or turnover of 300 crore or more. So if at all you are a listed company, you have to mandatorily appoint a women director. Mandatory. So if you are a listed company, you need not have to look into any turnover, any limit. You have to appoint a women director. If you are a public company, then if at all your paid up share capital is 100 crore or more. So guys, let us look at the silent possible questions here. Yes, see the first thing, public company having a paid up share capital of 100 crore or more. Where you will go wrong in your exams, we'll see. The limit given here is paid up share capital. Guys, whenever it is given as paid up share capital, it is equity share plus preference share. Always remember this. Whenever it is paid up share capital, it includes equity as well as preference. So in exam, they will give you a balance sheet where it says the equity capital of the company, preference share of the company is so much. Yeah, so kindly advise the company whether the company has to appoint a women director or not. This is how the question will be. Now, where you will go wrong in the exam? Should I add the preference share or not? Should I take it or not? Yeah, so remember this. The words are very important. Whenever it is given as paid up capital, then you have to take equity plus preference. This goes everywhere. So first silent question, a question can come here. The second one, 100 crore or more. So the word 100 crore is also inclusive. So 99,99,999. Sorry, I mean 99 crore 99 lakh 99,999. You need not have a women director. 100 crore you need to appoint. It is inclusive. So wherever that 100 crore or more, you need to know that number carefully. Yes, I hope it makes sense. Okay, sir. The next one, turnover of 300 crore or more. So again, the 300 is inclusive here. Okay, sir. The next one, or is used. So any one condition to be satisfied, again us question which can be hidden. In you go to exam, guys, this condition or and is very important. What is the difference? Now imagine if at all the and is given there, a public company should have had more than 100 crore and turnover should have been satisfied. The reason they have given or here, even if this condition is satisfied or the paid up capital condition is satisfied, if one of the condition triggers, you need to mandatorily appoint a women director. You have no other choice. Nari Shakti. Okay, sir. Sir, what if I am a newly incorporated company? A newly incorporated company will have 6 months time from the date of incorporation. If at all these limits are triggered from the day one. If your paid up capital is more than 100 crore from day one, then you will be given 6 months time from the date of incorporation to appoint a women director. Yes? Okay, sir. So I'll be giving something called as like this, guys, questionable points. So these are like this hidden questions. Yeah. So based on these things, they can ask you a question. So it is important for us to know these things. So pay more attention whenever there is a questionable points given. Okay, sir. Now, the paid up share capital. Sir, how to know which paid up capital to increase? Because at any given point of time, the paid up capital or the turnover, it keeps increasing or decreasing. Basically, turnover is, in a simple layman term, you can say it is sales, revenue generated. Yeah. Sir, the sales keeps on increasing every year. Yeah, so today there will be one sale, tomorrow there will be one more sale. So how do I consider this turnover? You should always consider the latest audited financial statements. So for example, for this year I will get a audited financial statements of say 31st March 2021. So I will take that, and as on that latest audited financial statement, if my turnover says it is more than 300 crore, paid up capital is more than 100 crore, then I have to appoint a women director. Make sense? Okay, sir. If at all a women director leaves the companies and go, meaning what? Sir, if there is a vacancy, very important, a question can come. Sir, if at all there is a vacancy, then what to do? The law says the vacancy shall be filled up by the immediately next board meeting or 3 months from the date of such vacancy, whichever is later. Sir, meaning what? Assume there is an example. Rani was a women director in a company, but there was a sudden death on 17th March 2019. The intermittent vacancy so occurred was required to be filled up at the earliest because she was the only women director on the board. There should be at least one women director. You can have more. Sir, can I have all 15 directors as women director? Absolutely no problem. The condition is only to have one women director at least. You can have all the entire board as women director. Absolutely no problem. No one will question you. Okay, sir. Now, the intermittent vacancy so occurred was required to be filled up at the earliest because she was the only women director on the board. The immediate board meeting was held on 25th June 2019. The vacancy of the women director must be filled up latest by 20. Okay. Now see, what does the law say? You have to fill the vacancy. Whenever a women director leaves the companies and go, then you will have 3 months time or immediate next board meeting, whichever is later. Correct? Okay, sir. Now see, 3 months from the date of such vacancy or immediate next board meeting. In our case, she vacated on 17th March 2019. From here, I will have 3 months. So calculate 3 months. Okay, sir. So March to April 1. April to May 2, May to June 3. So by 16th June 2019 is our 3 months. So the 3 months from 17th March 2019 will fall on 16th June 2019. Because you have to appoint a women director within 3 months. So that within means you have to, that 3 months falls on 17th June. So it has to be before that. Correct? So you have to appoint within 16th, by 16th June. Correct? Okay, sir. And the next board meeting date is 25th June 2019. So 25th June 2019 or 16th June, whichever is later. So they can appoint a women director by 25th June 2019. Yes, I hope you got the point here. Yes, guys. So let us look at the next concept. Yeah. So the next concept is Companies Act specifically talks about a person called as resident director. Yeah. Section 149 says there should be a person in a company. Every company, irrespective of whether you're a public, private, or an OPC or anything, every company shall have at least one director who stays in India for a total period of not less than 182 days during the financial year. Sir, what do you mean by this? Guys, now imagine a person incorporates a company in India. Okay, sir. Now, the moment the company is incorporated, we saw that the person who takes care of the business of this entire company would be directors. Yes, sir, agreed. Now imagine if at all something goes wrong, don't you think the brain or the mind should be punished? Yes, sir. Now imagine if at all such person has incorporated a company in India and the director is a foreigner. I mean, he is staying outside India. When I say a foreigner, I'm not talking about citizenship here. This is not talking about the national. It is not talking about the citizen. It is talking about where you are staying. So now imagine if at all such person is staying outside India and he does something wrong. Now imagine the case of Vijay Mallya. Though he belongs to India, we are not able to call him back. We are giving hundreds of summons. We are coordinating with the UK courts, but no, it is not working out. So imagine if the person is staying outside India. So the law says at least one person who is the director of such company, at least one person should be a resident in India. Sir, what do you mean by a resident? Such person should have stayed during that financial year, not the previous financial year. Sir, what do you mean by that? Now imagine if I am talking about the financial year 21-22. 2021-2022. During this financial year, when this financial year is going on, during this financial year, he should have stayed at least 182 days in India. I hope you're getting this point. So during this financial year, he should have stayed at least 182 days in India. So at least every company should have at least one director who is a resident in India. Sir, what do you mean by the condition resident? Resident means any person who has stayed for a period of at least 182 days. Am I clear? Perfect. Okay, sir. Sir, now let us look at a questionable point here. What is it? Imagine my company has been incorporated on 1st November 2020. Yes. So obviously the financial year ends on 31st March 2021. Yes. So whenever the company is incorporated, if it is before the December, if it is before, now say for example any time up to 31st December 2020, then the financial year will end on 31st March 2021. But if this company has been incorporated on 1st January 2021, then the financial year will not end on 31st March 2021, but it will be postponed to 31st March 2022. Sir, where is this given? In the financial year, the concept of financial year, which was there in CA Inter. Yeah, remember that. Okay, sir. So, 1st November 2020, 31st March 2021. Sir, now, how do I know about 182 days condition? How do I satisfy? Put together only there is no, the 180 days condition is not satisfied. Now, how do I meet the criteria? It is very simple. You have to take it proportionately. Sir, what do you mean by proportionately? Now, you have to take now see, out of 365 days, the law says you have to be in India for 182 days. Yeah, I'm just assuming here that 30 days a month and it is 5 months. Yeah, so 5 3s are 150. I'm just assuming it is 30 days a month. Yeah, so now if at all it is only 150 days because the company is newly incorporated. So the condition will be taken proportionately. So for 365 days it is 182 days. For 150 days then how many days? So we have to do this cross multiplication. Okay, how much does it come to? So how much does it come to? 150 into 182 divided by 365. 74.79. Yes. So I'll be rounding it off to 75 days. So he should have stayed in India for at least 75 days to meet the condition. So this is what the law says. Yes, I hope this is clear. Yeah, okay sir. So I have given under this questionable point in case of newly incorporated company. Yeah, so shall apply proportionately. Yes, okay sir. Yes sir. So the next type of director we are seeing here is under again section 149 is called as independent director. About independent director in the same chapter we will be looking into detail at the later point of time. Yes. So let us discuss it later. Okay sir. The next concept, interested director. Again regarding this we will be discussing in detail in another chapter. But as of now, what do you mean by interested director? Okay. Now assume guys. Assume I'm talking about Reliance Industries. Okay, sir. Sir, Reliance Industries, who is the chairman? The chairman of Reliance Industries is Mukesh Ambani. Okay, sir. Now, Mukesh Ambani wanted to give some, he wanted to produce a picture or something. Long back it was there. So Mukesh Ambani, the Reliance Industries, they wanted to associate with some other company to produce this film. Yeah. So they wanted to look out for a tie-up with another company. So they founded that Reliance Communication were doing films. The Reliance Communications chairman is Anil Ambani. Now, The Reliance Industries, when they wanted to do a film, so they wanted to look out for a contract, a tie-up. So they started looking out for partnerships in the market. So they found out that Reliance Communication they can do. Yes. So in this case, what happens? Mukesh Ambani, whenever this particular transaction is being considered in the board meeting, Mukesh Ambani will be considered as an interested director. Sir, what do you mean by interested director? So rest of them are not interested in the matter, is it? No. So in this case, interested director means in this particular transaction, Mukesh Ambani has some he has some interest in it. Sir, what do you mean by that? Indirectly, there is a chance for Mukesh Ambani to make profit out of it. So, ideally, the rest of the board may assume that in this particular transaction, Mukesh Ambani may not give his genuine decision. Obviously, because it is his brother's company, he may not consider major aspects. He may not ask for a quotation. He may not ask for a negotiation because it is his brother's company. So in such contracts, in such transactions where one of the director is interested in some way or the other, so it becomes interested transaction. So in that particular case, whoever director is interested will be called as an interested director. So regarding this, again we will be dealing in detail. Yeah. So what does the Companies Act say about it? How to go about it? We have it in detail. But as of now, just remember, interested director is a person who has some some way of making some profit out of it. Either is relative, either it will be some way or other that there will be a chance for this person to take a biased decision. So such case he will be called as an interested director. Okay sir, I hope this is clear. The next one. Ideally in Companies Act, if you see, there are two types of directors. Yeah. Ideally it is not given in detail like in a Companies Act they do not tell you that yes there are two types of directors and all, but for our understanding we are just classifying the types of director here. Okay sir, what is it? So under the Companies Act, the types of directors are under the Companies Act, there are two types of director. One is called as executive director. The other person is called as non-executive director. One is called as executive director, the other one is called as non-executive director. Sir, now what is this executive director and non-executive director? Executive director is a full-time employee. Executive director is like me and you. Sir, what do you mean? Once we finish our course, yeah, sir, morning 9 o'clock you have to log in. Sir, evening 6 o'clock you have to log out. If we have more work, you have to extend. Sir, will they pay us extra? No. So a person who works every day and every whenever the company is required, he'll be present 24 hours. Yes, a person who is actively involved and present every day in the company is called as executive. The next person, sir, he'll not come to the company at all. He will not come to the company at all. He'll not come every day. He is not like you. He'll not do the 9 to 6 job. Such person is called as non-executive. Sir, are there people who are called executive or non-executive? Yes, we have. Sir, why is this even important? Okay, now see, in Companies Act, what is this executive is, now when we appoint directors, yeah, to take care of this particular business, when we appoint directors, we generally appoint executive directors. Sir, what is this executive directors? Executive directors, the few of the examples are your managing director, popularly called as MD. Yeah, we'll call, no, he is a managing director of a company, or whole-time director. who are involved into the business every day. They have to think every day. They have to come, they have to see how things are working out. They are responsible for everything. Everything they are responsible. Something goes good, they are responsible. Something goes bad, they are responsible. Whether they know it or they don't know it. Yes, so such people are called as executive directors. Sir, now what are this non-executive director? Guys, remember carefully, non-executive director, and most of the students get confused here. Non-executive director and independent directors are not one and the same. Under non-executive director, independent director is also one amongst the non-executive directors. All the independent directors are non-executive directors, but not all the non-executive directors are independent directors. Sir, why? What difference does it make? Independent director is a non-executive director. He satisfies two conditions. Independent director is a non-executive director plus there is a section called as section 149 subsection 6. He satisfies this also. What is 149.6? We'll see later point of time. When we are dealing about independent director, let us go in detail. So, a person who satisfies that he is not a full-time employee, as well he will be satisfying a condition, that is 149 subsection 6. Yes, so if these two conditions are met, only then he will be an independent director. Yes, sir, then who else will be a non-executive director? One more example is called as nominee director. So even he'll be a non-executive director. Sir, who are these non-executive directors? See, non-executive directors are those people who are not actively involved in the business. They will not come every day. Sir, then they will come once in a month or whenever the company calls them. Sir, when will the company call them? Guys, they will come whenever there is a board meeting. They will come whenever there is a board meeting. Yes, so sir, board meeting, if you remember, in a year there should be at least a minimum of 4 board meetings. Guys, it is minimum. Maximum you can even conduct 100 board meetings. No one will ask you. So whenever a board meeting is conducted, executive directors plus non-executive directors attend the meeting. On that day alone, these people come and attend the meeting. Sir, why? Guys, listen, non-executive directors, why are they important? See, at times it may so happen that whenever you are appointing an executive director, you have to pay them a very exorbitant salaries. Yeah. But generally what happens, whenever, now say for example, if I have to diversify myself, my business. Now I'll give you an example. If I open Infosys board, the board of directors of Infosys, see here, can you see this? Executive members of the board, they are full-time employees, and see them, MD and whole-time director Praveen Rao. Yeah, yes, okay. Now see, lead independent director, who is this? Kiran Mazumdar Shah, sir, Biocon. Yes, yeah, so she is the director of Biocon. Sir, what is she doing on Infosys board? She is an independent director of Infosys. Sir, why? See, whenever these people are from various backgrounds, whenever you want to take certain technology, they will take certain technology from these people. Now, for example, Narayan Murthy was an independent director of ICICI Bank. Yes, so why, sir? Now see, whenever ICICI Bank wants to take some information about some technology, it will be taking from Narayan Murthy. In the same way, whenever Infosys wants to take certain technology, it will take from with respect to whatever Kiran Mazumdar Shah's company is into. Infosys may take and adapt certain things from such people. So independent directors comes with a very vast knowledge, and not only that, they are involved in unbiased decision. Sir, what do you mean by that? See, at times what may happen, this board of directors, because there is so much of power with them, they may at times misutilize it. See, the best example we just saw, Reliance Industries and Reliance Communication. If I wanted to make a movie, I may tie up with my brother's company. I may take a biased decision. I may pay more money because, I'll end of the day it is my brother. Or he would have told me, you charge extra, I'll pay you extra money. Yes, so end of the day the shareholders will suffer. So this non-executive directors, they bring experience, expertise, and they are no way connected to the company. So they take an unbiased decision. Sir, give us an example. The best example, whenever Satyam case, yes, the institutional board, yes, whoever were the institutional shareholder, they said, basically there are certain people called as nominee directors. We'll see again who are nominee directors in detail. We'll be seeing these two topics in detail. Nominee directors are basically those directors who are appointed by the financial institutions from whom you are taking loan. Now assume I am a Infosys company. I have taken loan from ICICI Bank. So ICICI Bank wants to know what is happening in the board because they have given money. So they will appoint one director in my particular company. So such persons are called as nominee director. Now, so such people, so they said no. When Satyam case was happening, there is a big case study. Yeah, so that is when Satyam had no other choice. Then he just came and he admitted that yes, I have done a mistake. So that will be the power of non-executive directors. They take unbiased decision. They are the people who will whistleblow. They'll say, sir, something wrong is happening in this company. They will alert the government. They'll alert the shareholders. Yeah, so such directors are called as non-executive directors. So under Companies Act, whenever we are seeing, there are two types of people. That is called as one executive director. The second one is called as non-executive director. Yes, so executive director, the best example is managing and whole-time director. Non-executive, independent and nominee director. Yeah, okay, sir. One more point, whenever you see non-executive director, they are held liable only if they knowingly consented to the wrongful act. Sir, what do you mean by this? See, board of directors, whether they know it or they do not know it, if at all something wrong happens in the company, the executive directors are liable for it. But non-executive directors, if at all anything happens in the company without their knowledge, or they have agreed without knowing about it. Yeah, I mean, assume if at all something happens and the independent directors were not involved in that particular act, the non-executive directors are not liable. The Companies Act protects them. Yes, because these people will not get regular salaries like an executive director. You need not pay them the heavy money as you pay the executive directors. They get paid in a different way. How we'll see. But these people won't get paid just like the executive director. And these people do not have so much of information and knowledge about what the company is doing every day. Yeah, so the law says whenever these people, something happens in the company without their knowledge. Yeah, and law says for such acts they are not liable. Executive director, no such bifurcation. Something wrong happened, you are liable. Karma, you have to undergo it. Yeah, so that is called as executive and non-executive difference. Okay, sir.